Hi, welcome to another episode of The Arena, a show about finance, real estate, flipping houses, and the boots on the ground making it happen every day. I know a lot of people were excited about this show. I know I was. I have someone that last year flipped over 116 houses for over $50 million. He owns Tim T Properties, and I want everyone to welcome Tim T.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Tim Tonsession.
There you go.
See?
Wow, that's good, man.
You only had to tell me once.
That's it.
Now everyone's like, oh, wait, hold on. Let me pause that. Let me rewind.
No one gets that right. Yeah.
I don't F that up when I see him in
exactly.
person. So, Tim, welcome. I know we've been trying to get you on for a while now, but it's tough because you're just so busy.
Exactly.
Let's just start right off. What's going on with you? What do you have going on in flipping real estate? What's happening?
So, I'm buying everything. Really, we anticipated interest rates coming down by now. So my thinking was rates are going to come down, and I want to own every piece of property in South Jersey because once rates come down, values will go up, and I'll be able to take advantage. Well, rates didn't come down. So towards the end of last year, I got stuck holding some property that I probably shouldn't have bought, and volume-wise, I had a great November and December. I think I sold 33 properties in 2 months, which is pretty crazy, but I didn't make a lot of money on those properties. So that was the big thing, and that kind of scared me a little bit coming into this year. So I didn't want to just buy anything. I wanted to be more calculated and make smart decisions, but I'm addicted to this, man. It's as much as I want to make a smart decision, I also can't say no. And just literally on the way here, one of my partners called me and said, we have one in Mount Laurel. Well, Mount Laurel recently just did free daycare for anyone that lives in that town. So Mount Laurel's a hot town. The last one we had in Mount Laurel sold for $90,000 over asking. They want $350,000 for this house. Normally, this house is a $300,000 purchase. It needs about $150,000 worth of work. So we're taking a risk on it. I said, just buy it, dude. Just get it. I haven't even seen the house yet. I'm the one that does all the work at these houses, but we'll make it work. But what happened was last year, all those houses, I said the same thing. We would usually get a little over asking. We would usually, even if we broke even, it all worked itself out. The end of last year, the houses weren't selling for what we wanted. We weren't getting over asking. So, it hurt our pockets a little bit, but the way I do things, man, I really can't get that hurt in this business because I'm fast, right? I'm in and out of these houses quick. Say I'm in and out in 4 months. Is the market going to shift that fast? Even if it did, if I got to break even if I lost money on all the houses that I own, I'm still not going to bankrupt myself, right? So that's why I try to do, I'm not trying to do long-term stuff,
Well, you're definitely addicted because I know when we were walking in here, you were trying to buy a house from one of my guys who had a lead on something in Berlin.
Yeah.
So, and we said, look, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, but the problem is your shots can cost you $500,000.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Listen, I lost on one in December. We lost 38,000 on it.
Yeah.
I have a partner, so I lose 14. He, or whatever. No, it was more than that. But, it's at the end of the day, when you do volume, you're going to have those losses. I'd rather not have the losses, but what are you going to do?
Well, you just hit on the key point. This is something I wanted to ask you, and I know a lot of people are wondering. Look, a lot of people want to flip houses. They love the idea. I know that just from watching the HGTV shows. I mean, there's how many property flipping, zombie flipping. I mean, you have Tarek and his ex-wife and his current wife or something going on there. You have flipping wars. So it's still hot. Everyone talks about it. But you just hit it on the head, and the key word was volume. If you're an individual flipper and you're banking on this one property to make or break your career or your year, and that's going to lead you to either be able to flip other properties, or now you're basically going to take the next 3 years to recoup that money. So what do you say to people that are looking at this as a hobby? It's a part-time thing. They want to get into it. I know you get asked this all the time, but I just wanted to make sure that we had this on the record right now. Right. What's your advice to those people?
Flip in the areas that you know. and you need to be comfortable and you need to educate yourself. You need to talk to a couple different agents. Don't trust the one agent that calls you and says, hey, I have this slam dunk. Ask another agent. Call around, check up, look at the house on Zillow. Look it up for yourself. If you're going to flip a house and you don't know how to operate Zillow and look at what's sold in that area, you shouldn't be flipping houses. Like, you can't go into this blind. And, but it comes down to also working with people that you can trust. If you call an agent up that you've never dealt with, or an agent or a wholesaler, a lot of these wholesalers today, not all of them, but a lot of them, they don't know what they're doing. They'll say, oh, I have a house, it's 200 purchase and it needs 40 in rehab. I get to the house, it needs 140 in rehab.
Where are they getting that 40 from?
Because that's what needs it. If they said more, the deal didn't work. So, and it's a shame because there's some people that don't know any better and they buy these deals. And there's a guy that I know that was in the wholesale business and he got out and became an agent. And he started flipping houses, and that's his main source of income. I know personally on the last 3, he's lost money on 3 houses. I know a realtor, one of the biggest realtors in South Jersey. He hasn't made money. He might tell you he's made money on his flips, but I know he hasn't. He's lost money on his last 5 or 6 flips, but he continues to do it. He continues to go on Facebook trying to teach people how to flip houses. And it's funny, he's not making money doing flips.
What's the life cycle of a flip, from prospecting to the purchase to everything? How long does that really take?
I would say all in 6 months. I mean, from the time we see the house, we buy it. Obviously we want to close quickly, but it can take 2 to 4 weeks to close. Then we're another 60 to 90 days in rehab, to rehab it. Then we have to list it, stage it, and then we get it on the market. So I would say 6 months.
Well, that's key, because to those people looking to do this as a hobby, that's 6 months out of your life.
Yep.
That's a lot. And they don't have a team around them. They're kind of GCing the project, right?
Correct.
And then in the meantime, if they borrowed that money on an equity line or whatever, they're paying interest, probably a lot of interest on that. So at the end of 6 months, their holding costs alone could sink them, right?
So there's 2 guys that I know. They were both realtors, and they decided that they wanted to flip houses. So they started buying everything because they had a hard money lender that gave them 100% of the entire project. So they didn't have to put any money down. So they're buying these houses, they're financing 100%. So when you look at a house, of course you're going to add up the interest, closing costs, the interest. When you put that on paper, and at the end of the day, you say, all right, we can make 40, 50,000 on this one. But what they forgot is that they had monthly payments that had to come out. So next thing you know, they're 20 houses deep. Didn't cost them $1, but now all of a sudden they got to make $30,000, $40,000 a month in mortgage payments. They couldn't do it. So instead of them going bankrupt, they were able to work a deal out with their lender, and they just finally liquidated their last property. But right now they're selling roofing and siding, and they're doing really good at it, and they're good guys, but they underestimated. You got to look at every aspect of it. Like for me, I pay $70,000 a month in mortgage payments just for my business. I have to account for all my overhead on top of that. So, right now, it's crazy. The overhead's pretty crazy, honestly. I didn't think it would get this big.
I think several people fell off their chair when they heard you just say that.
Yeah, $70,000 a month in mortgage payments. Yeah,
I
have one in Margate. It's $14,000 a month, and it won't sell. So I've been sitting on it. So.
And then you either hope for the market to shift, or you got to change the price, right?
Exactly.
And then take that loss. And a lot of people can't afford to do that.
And what's crazy is I had it sold for $1.85. If that sold, I would have made $300,000. I just had an offer for $1.6 that I'm contemplating taking it, and that would be probably a break even, maybe lose $20,000. So, and again, to have a swing that way within 3 months to go from 850 to down the shore is a tricky market, but that's where my home runs are all down the shore.
Well, Billy said he wants to buy a place down the shore, so hook him up.
I heard it was that asshole photographer that photographed it.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Are you the one that photographed it? Oh my God. That's definitely the reason it's not selling. Like, that's the guy responsible for all the drones in New Jersey. F that guy. I'm not going to buy anything now. Yeah. So let's now going on the beginning part of that process. and finding the properties. So I thought this would be interesting to take you and a normal buyer. And what do you both depend on? Agents to prospect for you.
Yep.
Agents to be experts at what they do. Now, I would argue you have another layer of that where an agent has to be good at understanding an ROI, the investment side of things.
Correct.
Where as an agent just looking, what do you care? Schools, location, neighborhood, and then do people want a good investment? Sure, of course. They don't want to get screwed on a house, but that's in the back of their mind. But what would you say is your go-to when you're talking to a new agent and you want to understand, is that agent going to do right by me, find me the best property? I know agents are hitting you up left and right with opportunities. So what is it in an agent that you're looking for?
Really, just someone that knows the market. So if someone brings me a house in Mount Laurel, they need to understand that market. Like I get hit up every day by agents. On the way here, I had 3 agents hit me up. I have a piece of land. Well, like, all right, well, what's the return? What can I build? Is the lot buildable? And they don't know, And so for me, again, I want those phone calls. I mean, that's why I'm on Facebook every day, is I want agents to call me. But in the same breath, the agents have to know. They have to know if they're going to bring me a house. They have to educate themselves first. You can't just call me up with an address, because at that point I don't take that agent serious. And then the next time they call me, I might just blow them off. And I hate to really say that, but I'm too busy. I need to be when someone sends me a house, I'm hoping that it could be a deal. Not, hey, Tim, go waste your time and drive an hour to the house, look, and it wasn't even close to being a deal.
Now, there have been situations where an agent tells you to buy something, you don't think it's a good deal, but then it ends up being profitable?
Yeah, I've had that. So I'm
asking for a friend, by the way.
For a friend?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Our mutual friend who may have found you a property or two.
Well, listen, that happens. I mean, listen, she brought me, this agent brought me a house in a historic area. Well, I didn't know it was historic. I've never dealt with the historic, that end of real estate. And we got into it. We started gutting the house. We started doing roof, window, siding. Next thing you know, the township hired an historian to come in. They closed our job down, and we had to wait 3 months to meet with this historian. And we had to have, we probably spent $4,000 to $5,000 on blueprints, and we had to show them everything, samples of everything. We went in there pretty professional.
Wait, I'm confused. What do they want to put, one of those blue historic signs out front or something? What was the point of that?
It just, in that town, in Riverton, that section is historic. And the neighbors called on me because it was Memorial Day weekend and we were doing the roof. And he was sitting on his front porch drinking his coffee. And, maybe I shouldn't have been there on the weekend doing work. And we were, and he was pissed. So he called the township, and that's what sparked the whole thing. So, but at the end of the day, it was a really big project, right? It was a 3-story home, 3,000 square foot. We had to take out an in-ground pool, build a front deck, a back porch, but we still made $14,000 at the end of the day. We didn't lose money. Was it the home run that we wanted? No, but we still made money. So,
I keep hearing losing a little money, making a little money. Potentially making $300,000, now breaking even. We go back to, if the volume isn't there, it's really tough in this market.
I agree.
To make money. Do you think people are still living more in the COVID era? They've heard the stories from that, maybe a little bit beyond, and they still think the houses are going to sell at that top dollar. And by the way, speaking of that, the market, everyone keeps thinking of this market as being the hottest it's ever been. Are you seeing that now shift?
I'm seeing that. I just had a house in Cherry Hill on Kings Drive or Kings Lane in Cherry Hill. Phenomenal house. In an upcoming area, in-ground pool. It's the typical Cherry Hill. If you want to be in Cherry Hill, this is the development you want to be in. We thought we were going to get $869 in the high 8s for this house. We're now taking an offer. It's been on the market for 5 months. We can't sell it. We're now taking an offer for $729. So that's one scenario. Then we had a house that we just listed in Mount Laurel. We listed it at the height where we listed it at $699. We thought, man, we're going to be reaching at that. And it wind up selling for $790. So $90K over ask. Honestly, it's hit or miss. There's no rhyme or reason. I could list a house in Haddon Heights. One house will go over asking. The next house, I'm accepting 20, 30 less. I can't read this market. Again, I bought a lot of these houses hoping that the interest rates were going to come down and that I would be the one holding the houses and being able to cash in. But, it's still working out. Again, I already own 78 houses for the year. So to come into the year with already 78 houses my goal is to do 120 every year.
You got a lot to work for, work with. And then during the year, Q1 going to Q2, 3, if the market ends up opening up, you make more money in the tail end of the year.
Exactly. And, look, at the end of the day, I can afford to make 15, 20 grand on a house because I'm closing 10 to 15 houses a month. So, but I have, again, I have a lot of people that depend on me. A lot of families I feed, my sheetrock guy, use him as an example. When he started with me, it was him and one other guy in a van. And he now has 9 vans and 20-something guys. He just bought a house for $500,000. I'm blessing. By me putting this together, I'm able to bless so many people. And so many people have come up with me, and I'm proud of that, man. I know I'm kind of getting off topic, but it's a good thing, man.
Hey, I love it. It's your podcast. You say whatever the hell you want. I think it goes into your why, and I think a lot of people don't know their why. They do it at first because they just need to make a buck, and then it turns into, well, I hate doing this, or I love doing this. A lot of people don't realize you started off in the business in mortgage.
Right.
And we'll get into that a little bit, but you went for mortgage and you started seeing coworkers, friends of yours flipping. You're like, I could do that.
Yep.
And it just seems that you loved it. And I'm going to tell you why I know you love it, because I've heard from so many people that not only are you flipping houses, but you're doing it right.
All right.
And the one thing I wanted to say, because I know there a lot of buyers are going to be watching this, potential buyers, and there's not a lot of inventory out there, which has been the name of the game for a decade now. Let's face it, more so now than recently. But when they're looking at these houses, a lot of the properties out there are flips. You have new construction, you have existing, and then in the middle of that you have flips, renovated properties. What's your warning to them? What do they need to look out for? Because again, when I hear people talk about your flips, it's done right. You've gone the extra mile. You could have saved money. Yep. You could have saved $1,000 there. You could have saved $5,000 there, made a little extra income profit, but you don't. So one, I want to know, why don't you? And two, what do they need to look out for?
So the first is I'm building a brand, right? So the Tim T brand is, I hope to hand this to my son one day and my son's son. So I'm trying to build something that lasts for a long time, right? And create a legacy and about that Tim T brand. And if I was cutting corners, I wouldn't have the reputation that I do. My reputation speaks for itself. I go above and beyond. When I shake hands with someone at the table, I give them my business card. I said, if you have any issues, you call me. I give them a verbal 1-year warranty for HVAC, plumbing, and heating and air, electric, HVAC, and heating and air, and plumbing. Yeah, so just the mechanicals. And I make my guys who do the work, I tell them they're on the hook for 1 year. So that gives them some accountability as well. And, and it lets homeowners know, too, that I stand behind my work. What's crazy is you don't see flippers showing up even at the closing table, let alone handing their business card and shaking their hand. So, and I like to look them in the eyes. Like, we had a closing in Egg Harbor Township, and they owned a jewelry store. And they brought their grandmother to the closing. And their grandmother was like, giving me props. And we shook hands, and she was like, but what stands out with me and why they were so impressed is the details. When you walk into a house, a renovated house, you need to look at the details. Look at the trim. Look at the tile. Is there paint on the floor? If you see paint on the floor, or if the house isn't clean or the house isn't staged, be careful because
What does it look like behind the walls?
Exactly. And one thing that I do, and I try to do on as many houses as I can, is I try to take down the sheetrock, because let's say I buy a house and it's been sitting for a year, right? But the walls look decent where they could be salvaged, but there was a ton of moisture in the basement. You don't know what type of mold's growing behind that. I would never want to sell that house to a family that has kids, and down the line maybe their kids or one of their family members suffered because there was mold behind the walls. And listen, I can't protect everybody. I can't predict what's behind the walls in every house, but I have a pretty good idea of when there's mold and when there's issues. And again, it costs me, if I gut a house down to the studs, it probably costs me an additional $25,000 rather than to just leave up the sheetrock. So it goes into my budget. But, man, I know at the end of the day, they're getting a solid house.
Well, I think right there, we're finding out sometimes your profit could be less than $25,000.
Correct.
So the fact that you're willing to do that to make sure that your product, because that's what it is, it's a product.
Correct.
And when you're delivering that, you know you could stand behind it. I'm the same way. I mean, I have a 2.5, 6.5-year-old. I can't imagine if I watched them coughing and asthma and having all sorts of problems, and I found out that, it's because of mold behind the walls. And by the way, that could have been remediated had the flipper just done a little extra work to see what was back there.
So before I started flipping, I worked for a guy that flipped houses. Now, and I seen the horror stories that he went through. Now, this is when flipping first became a thing, right? Where it was like the Wild Wild West. There was no permits. There was just, they were turning the houses so fast, putting them back up. Well, he finished the basement, and there was mold behind the walls. And instead of them ripping down the moldy sheetrock, they put new sheetrock right on top. And what happened was, a week after closing, water came into the basement, flooded the basement, and then when the homeowner hired their insurance company, they started ripping down the walls. There was mold everywhere. The foundation was cracked. Well, he hired an attorney. He went back to that flipper and said, hey, I want $25,000 to finish my basement. That flipper thought he was bigger, like he had more money than this buyer, and thought he was going to bully this buyer around. He wound up losing that flipper wound up getting sued for $400,000 and lost. So I seen the other side. Before I got into this, I seen what I didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to have lawsuits. I didn't want to sell someone a product and for them, a month after. And think about this, man. You see this because you're on the mortgage side. People invest a lot of their hard-earned savings into these houses, man. That could be their last $1,000 that they're putting in. They could be scraping just to pay for the appraisal. So it's expensive to buy a house today. I want to make sure that if they buy a Tim T house, that it's going to stand above everyone else, and that and how that happens is the real estate agents. All the agents know that my product is good, and that's I just had a house I listed in Williamstown. An agent showed it. She texted me. She goes, man, I really appreciate what you do. She goes, you go above and beyond, and the work is quality. She's like, and I told my buyers that, and they might be putting an offer in, but so I'm proud of that.
Well, and you would hope that karma will come back to you.
Exactly.
If you have two flips side by side, seemingly the same type of house, same square footage, and you have agents that know better, they're going to direct their buyers to you, and you'll get more money for yours. So you just told me you're about to buy a property sight unseen. First of all, how many times do you do that? Is that pretty often?
I try not to. No, maybe at least once or twice a month I buy something sight unseen.
So when you walk into these properties for the first time, what's some of the craziest stuff you've seen? Because some of these are sitting for a while, right?
So I'm going to tell a story. I've told this story before, but this is pretty funny. So we get a call from Santini. Hey, we have this house in Washington Township, and it was in a great neighborhood, and we want $200,000 for it. So I said, does anyone live there? They said, we're not sure. The house looks abandoned, but we're not sure if they live there or not. So I said, all right. So I go there, and I'm looking in. I go to get in. The door's locked. So I'm looking in the windows, and it looks bad. I mean, there's trash a foot, maybe 2 foot even high on the ground through the entire house. So I said, let me go through the garage. So I lift the garage. I lift it up about a foot, the garage door, and 3 dogs like are basically trying to bite me from under the door. So I shut the door real quick, and I'm walking back to my truck, and the owner comes running around the corner, and he's like, "Yo, what are you doing in my house?" So I jump in my truck real quick. So he like chases me down the street. So we leave. All right. So we go back with Fran. So now we're able to get into the house. Okay?
And you officially own this house?
No, we don't own it yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So we go back to the house, and Fran's going to go in and meet with this guy. So I said, "I'm not going in there. You go in." So Fran goes in. The guy shuts the door behind him. The guy answers the door in army fatigues. All right, so he's got real long
Always
hair.
a great sign.
Yeah, army fatigues. There's dogs barking. It's crazy. So Fran goes in. Like he don't care, man. He'll go into some crazy spots. So the guy shuts the door. They walk into the living room. Well, the guy was dropping termite bombs. You know how they're cans that smoke. So he's throwing the cans as they're walking through the house. So Fran doesn't know it yet.
Pretty sure you're not supposed to breathe that in.
No,
right?
at all. So now, literally, this house, it was the worst house we've ever purchased. But the good news is it was on a concrete slab. So there was no rot. There was no, but the dogs were urinating and pooping in the house. So was he. There was no active toilets. So he gets Fran into the back of the house. There was an addition in the back, and there was no door, no way out. And he drops the can right in front of, like, Fran sees smoke. And Fran goes, "Dude, the house is on fire." And Fran's like, now he's trapped. The guy's standing in front of him. So, and the whole house starts filling up with smoke. So, and the guy's not saying anything to Fran. So Fran like comes running out. By the time he opens the front door, all the smoke's piling out. Fran's like, "Get out of here. Go, go, go." The guy comes running out. He's chasing us. And it was so crazy. The day we closed, the guy actually moved into the woods across the street. He didn't have a place to go. He was staying at a hotel, but he was a heavy drinker. So he was just drinking in the woods. So any neighbor that went by, he used to just flip off all the neighbors. So every neighbor came over and were like, "We can't believe you bought this house." But honestly, once we demoed it, man, it was a solid house, man. We actually did good on it. But that was a crazy.
I feel bad for that demo crew.
Yeah. Oh yeah. These demo guys, I give them credit. I had an opportunity to go in partners with my demo guy, and I just didn't want to be a part of it. I mean, these guys, what they go through, I mean, between the cat and between the urine and, there was one house where...
You can't have a gag reflex.
Exactly. There was one house where the toilet wasn't working, so they had wipes, and they were just using hand wipes and then throwing them on the kitchen table. So as we're walking through...
Not even the trash can?
No, on the kitchen table. And this house was filled. So as we're walking through, I noticed this. But Fran he doesn't pick up on stuff as good as he should, right?
Well, obviously, if he doesn't notice termite smoke bombs going off around
right,
him.
Exactly. So he's leaning on these rags. And I said, "Fran, you're leaning on shit." He goes like this. They're sticking to his jacket. I said, "I'm not even going." He still walked through the house. I'm like, "Fran, I've seen enough, man." I forget where that house was, but dude, and these people live in these houses, and it's a sickness, and I feel bad for these people, but I don't think they know any better. I think, and the one thing I do want to talk about something, and which maybe it's a downer, but what's really sad is that, I go into these houses where, it was their parents' house, and they pass away, and all their stuff that they've accumulated through their entire life just gets thrown into a dumpster. And and the family comes through and they take what they want, but they leave the rest. But think about that. In that generation, our parents, right? That generation, they didn't have a lot, so they kept everything.
Depression era.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
They held on to everything. So when you go in these houses and you see the newspaper articles and just the stuff that they've accumulated, and it just gets thrown out like that, within 2 days, their entire life is in a dumpster. And that's part of the job that depresses me a little bit. It's sad, but
it's perspective.
Yes. but I need them. I need them houses, like that's what keeps my business going. And now I'm going to clean that house up, and a young family is going to come in and get to have their memories, hopefully, 30, 40, 50 years down the line. And that's how the world works.
Well, Tim, we've all been there. We've driven through neighborhoods, and over the years, we've just wondered what's going to happen to these neighborhoods. Yeah. These are neighborhoods built in the 50s, 60s.
It is way to go.
Look, we're in New Jersey. You're not building a lot around here, especially in the good locations. And it's people like you that's transforming these neighborhoods, because you get to a certain point and you have, your grandparents, the older generation, they can't afford to keep up with these houses. They go in disrepair. And if too many of them go in disrepair, it affects the value of the entire neighborhood. So it's you that is keeping the value where it should be. It's you that's helping the neighbors around you.
Fishnet.
So I applaud you. I think it's an amazing business that you have.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on. And as a bonus feature, we're going to have our very own Craig Sherlock coming in.
I love it.
That's it.
And so stay tuned. We're going to have him on in just a minute.
That's what it was.
Shit,
yeah.
Appreciate it.
Good old days.
Hey, we're back. Wanted to just introduce our guest. This is the bonus clip of the Tim T interview. I want everyone to say hi to Craig Sherlock. What's up, Craig?
How you doing? How are you?
Craig is a part of the Maximus crew, and coincidentally knows Tim very well. So, of course, I wanted to bring Craig in, tell some stories. We're going to have a little fun. Maybe we can see what it was like knowing Tim T early in his career. And you guys went to high school together, but you were not the same year, right?
Correct.
He was a great ahead. Yeah. We went to St. Joe in Hamilton.
Yeah.
Tim, he was a power lifter, played football, thin, good looking.
Wait a second. So power lifter. So what exactly does that mean? How much do you have to lift to be considered a power lifter?
Well, see, St. Joe was a big football school. And part of the football, the coach was a professional power lifter. So, which was deadlift, squatting, and benching. And he did it in competition. He weighed 165 pounds. I think he squatted 600 pounds. So
what?
Yeah,
Coach
yeah.
Sacco.
He was only like 5 foot tall. Like so, but so what happened was I got kicked off the football team my freshman year, but I was the only power lifter that didn't play football. I just loved it. My legs were really strong for some reason, and I was good at it. And so we had a powerlifting team, which not many schools have that type of program.
I didn't know any of the schools had that.
The best. We had our cards every day. Sacco had.
So you were on the powerlifting team too?
Absolutely, yeah.
But you were a string bean, I heard.
Well, 181. They call me Ribs. I knew I was going to fill it out at one point in time. Yeah,
he used to walk around like this.
Like this. Yeah, Ribs. Gary Giroux. Ribs.
That's a good technique. Just keep your arm out to where you want to eventually be.
That's it. Yep. Yeah, we did powerlift. Yeah, a lot of fun memories at high school. That's for sure.
So I have a couple good stories about Craig. Okay. So I used to have a trucking business. So right out of high school.
We'll edit this, Craig.
Yeah. So right out of high school, I started a trucking business, and I was delivering mattresses for Sleepy's. Well, started with Dial a Mattress and then went to Sleepy's, and I wound up working where I had 14 trucks on the road. And I wind up getting addicted to Oxycontins, and I was spiraling. And I knew Craig was involved. Craig knew a bunch of people, and so I went to Craig for money. I needed to borrow money, and so I said, "Hey, Craig, I need to borrow $5,000."
I think it was 10.
Oh, 10,000
a week.
Yeah.
Craig doesn't forget that.
Yeah. So I said, "Hey, Craig, I need to borrow $10,000." So Craig gives and says, "Listen, you got to pay me back $1,000 every week." So I'm meeting him at all Francesco's and Cafe Society to pay him back, and he would come out with all these musclehead guys to collect his money, and then so I'll never forget, I was going to rehab. I was trying to get myself sober, and I said, "Craig, I can't pay you, dude. I'm going to rehab, dude." He goes, I'm coming to your house, dude." I was like, "Oh shit, I don't need these guys at my house." So I figured out a way real quick to pay him back.
The Meathead Mafia coming after you.
And then I wind up getting sober, and I knew I couldn't go back into the trucking business, so I started selling furniture at Ashley Furniture. Actually, this is back when you would look in the newspaper for job ads.
It's around 2005, I think. That's when I was building. That's why I remember that year. Yeah, 2005.
And so I'm at Ashley, and I was probably the top salesman there. I was making $70, $80 a year. I'm going to meetings every day. I'm going to church on Sundays. I'm living right. So Craig comes in, and he buys $16,000 worth of furniture. And he whips out cash. And I'm like, Craig, you still doing mortgages? He's like, yeah. I said, how you doing? He goes, I'm killing it. I said, what's killing it? He goes, I made $42,000 this month. I said, bullshit. He goes, pay.
Let me stop. He had to pull that out of me. I usually don't brag about what I make. Timmy would say, "You're not doing it." I said, "Tim, I'm all right."
Wait, so
show me your stub.
We're having a real life Wolf of Wall Street
Wolf of
moment.
Wall Street.
This was before the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
a true story.
All right,
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So I said, he goes, come out to my truck. I'll show you my pay stub. He had an Infinity Q. What was it?
The Q80s.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, the big ones. Yeah.
So he had a white one. I walk out. He opens up he goes in his console. He shows me the pay stub, and it was for $22,000. So he got paid bi-weekly. I said, dude, I want to come work with you. He goes, you could start on. He goes, come over and see what we're about. So I said, no, I'll make it happen. I said, he goes, it's no salary. It's 100% commission. I said, I'll do it. So we walk in together. I'll never forget, Nick Palma was my manager. He wound up coming to work for me down the line.
Yeah.
But I said, Nick, I'm giving you my 2 weeks right now. I'm going to work for Craig. Nick goes, you can leave right now. Like, he thought I was going to fall on my face. Like, he's like, Dad, you could be out right now. You don't need 2 weeks. I put my hand tag down. I walked out with Craig. And now, remember, I'm not good with computers, right? This is like, I'm not savvy at all. I get to I'm thinking I'm going to work for a legit bank. I think I'm going to work at TD Bank. I walk in, these guys got their
like boiler
collars.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple guys are sniffing Oxy 80s at their desk. Like, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, this is crazy. But I'm looking around the room. They're all making money. They're all driving Jaguars, Mercedes, BMWs. I'm like, dude, if they can do it, I can do it. So my first month, I make nothing. My second month, I make nothing. My third month, I pop a deal. It was to lower my bills, cash out in North Jersey.
I love how you remember this, by the way.
Yeah.
You always remember your first deal.
We I don't know how we got the deal to close, but we got the deal to close, and that one deal had $15,000 in it, and I think I was making 35% at the time, and I wind up making $15,000 that month, my third month in, and then we used to have weekly or monthly meetings, and my name started to rise on the board, and there was just something about it, man. It was so addicting. I was like, I want to be the top guy in here, and then. It's a shame. If we would have stayed there, we probably could have had something really special.
The difference with us, and I think we just laughed about the other day, was it could be a blizzard. And I'd be pushing a kid Lee's car off the side of the road just to make it into the office. Today, if it's a flurry, nobody comes in.
Yeah.
And it relates back to the market, why there's lack of inventory, why there's lack of a lot of things. But the thing we had was
character and work habit.
Our work ethic was something that was completely unmatched. You really couldn't match it. And what Tim's saying is real. He did show up on Monday. And, a lot of guys tell you, Matt, I'm coming with you on Monday. All right, I'll see you Monday.
Sure, I'll see you there.
He showed up. And I said, oh, shit, I got to get his laptop. I got to get him set up. And you know what? And whether he was good with the computers or not, we had our meetings every Monday. I'd bring the coffee, the donuts. And he was. His pipeline was growing. And we sat down, and any help he needed, I was always behind him, second voice and whatever it was.
Yep.
And that's the way it started.
Well, unlike Wolf of Wall Street, we didn't end up in jail.
No.
Correct.
At least
no
you
cuffs.
two didn't.
Almost.
No cuffs.
Almost. Let's put it that way. So,
So
what happened?
And a testament to you, Tim. You were around that, and you could have fallen back into a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, we were there 6 months, and they said, "Hey, we're not going to do mortgages anymore. We're going to do mortgage modifications. We're going to take the lower my bill leads instead of doing refis. We're going to pitch them on modifications." And I didn't know any better. I've been doing it 6 months. I'm thinking, man, we're going to help homeowners, man. Yep. So did Craig. I mean, we really believed in it.
Yeah, why change up for we had a great thing.
So all of a sudden, I go from making $10,000, $15,000 a month. Now I'm making $30,000, $40,000 a month. They make me a manager. I'm in this thing 8 months. They said, go, you need suits. I went to Today's Man. I bought 3 suits. I wore the same suits over and over. And now I have 20 guys working under me. Everyone's making money, and then within 6 months, Channel 6 News is out front, shut down. And then it was like, all right, debt settlement. That was the new thing. And debt settlement could have been a legitimate business if we weren't telling the people not to make their credit card payments.
Right.
Yep. But when the way you got paid on debt settlement, man, it started to it was almost like not a Ponzi thing, but every month, man, they kept making those payments.
Income off it up to a certain percentage.
Man, if it went for 1 year, if you signed up 20 people a month for 1 year straight, the money was unbelievable. So we're all looking at this compounded money. We're like, wow. And then we really realized that was a scam too. And then that's when I went back to work with Ryan Barbalius, and then you went to AnnieMac, right?
I went to AnnieMac. Well, before AnnieMac, I did a small stint with a community bank.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
You know, it's crazy. It was such a bad experience. I can't remember the name. It was in Virginia. With
You
Paul
were right
Conti.
you were right behind
It was a state,
in Marlton.
Yeah,
I
it was
forget.
a state
yeah.
charter.
Before that,
Yep.
we were working together.
Yep. Yeah, Matt and I worked together here, and Matt was the first guy in purchases. I remember, he was at the desk grinding like we did every day. AnnieMac was a big experience coming into AnnieMac. That was 100% refinance, $80 million a year we were closing, pumping the chest. And I'd call Matt. Matt was a
When I got to tell you, Craig, it's tough to go from a refi
Sure was.
a specific shop to purchase, and you
Sure
did that
was.
180.
I did a 180. First year I picked up President's Club for top purchase increase in the company.
Oh, really?
First year. And if I wouldn't have gone if Matt wasn't there, and unfortunately, shortly after I was there, Matt, had a falling out with who he worked with and left. But it was a big change. And, both of our careers, I mean, the way they, it's been over 20 years when you think about it, and you think of all the bumps on the road throughout the process. And, even a couple of years back, what I went through, divorces, different things. But you're built to be, I think that, it's like that Rocky quote, you keep getting hit, how hard can you get hit to get back up? And that's what we do. And that's, that's what grinds you. The addictions grind you to be successful. You don't want to be mediocre. You want to be the best.
And you want to prove it to yourself too.
Prove it to yourself, yeah.
When it really, and that's why it's on a personal level. Everyone sees the money, and that's the only thing. It's like the motivational poster, the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yep.
You don't see all the days getting to work on time. That's your habit. You're consistent. You're in there every day. You're making X number of phone calls. You're prospecting.
Yeah.
You're doing all the right things every day, and then eventually that leads to those big paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to be a survivor, and you have to pivot, and you have to make sure you're ahead of the trends and the curves, because this market is not
crazy.
easy.
We drove off of fear of loss, and you had to make it. And I'd sit outside with Eric Simkin. Eric, I'm going to make it. I got to make it, right? I mean, and that's what it was. We outworked everybody, so it took time. And even on the purchase side, my story was John Clyde. We trained in the gym together. I never asked him for business. I was doing just fine. One day I called him up. Hey, John, what are you looking for in a lender? I knew I had no option but to convert. What are you looking for? Other than just saying I'm the best. And John said, I was waiting for you to call me. Set an appointment with Matt Teeter. And that was it. And it was almost like the Eminem song coming into the meeting. I had one shot I had to make it. Matt Teeter and I became, a very good friendship out of it. And I really enjoyed it. We built that culture over at KW in Washington Township. But that was my conversion. I knew most of the guys. Once you cut the leads off, they were out. Even though they weren't converting them, it was a big change. And not many people were able to convert over. And we did. Timmy did it before I did. And he used to always tell me, start doing the purchase business. And that's it. Now that's all we do. That's it.
Well, we're lucky to have you, Craig. And Tim, really appreciate you coming down today.
It was a great time, man.
This is great, getting to know
Let's
both of you a
do it
little
again,
bit better.
man. Let's do this again,
We might have to make it a series.
Yeah, I like that.
This is something that so many people love real estate. I mean, look, it's so personal. It's such a great investment if you know what you're doing. And the thing I love about it, that the Zillows of the world and all these big BlackRock corporations, they're never going to be able to do. They're never going to know the local markets like the boots on the ground.
Yep.
It's the reason I put this podcast and this show together, because that's how I open up the show. These are the boots on the ground making it happen every day. And nobody knows the neighborhoods in and out like you do. Remember Zillow tried to do that at one point, and they were trying to do the flips, and they were trying, and they lost a ton of money because nobody's going to know it. So you hold the keys to the kingdom there. Yeah, Craig, thanks so much for hopping on here.
My pleasure.
And I do want to say, Craig gave me my start, man. He really did. Who knows where I could have been? I mean, I was selling furniture. Again, I knew I was destined for something bigger, and thank God Craig walked in that night, because real estate has changed my life. And I just want to say thanks, brother. I appreciate
always,
you,
man. Proud of you.
Yeah, proud of you.
Every video. Yeah.
And to give Tim some plugs, Tim has Tim T Talks.
That's right.
New series he just started. So if you're a real estate agent or just anybody
Let's get him on
with
HGTV.
questions,
Get him on one of those
Tim,
shows.
where can we find you on Instagram?
That's
At Tim T Properties.
yeah.
At Tim T Properties,
There you
and if
go.
you can pronounce his last name right, you get a free house.
There you go. I like that. I like that.
Instagram easy at Tim T Properties. YouTube at Tim T Properties.
That's right. Everything is Tim T Properties. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
it.
you know,
All right.
Facebook's Facebook, right? Well, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it. Until next time, thanks for joining us. We'll have Tim on again in the future. You guys have a great one.
You too.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.